Dark Myth Wukong, Chapter 30. Water Tribe Leader. After finishing the delicious hot snake meat, Sun Wukong waved his hand and recalled the void's salvation flower. He determined his direction, then stood up and flew away, disappearing without a trace within a few breaths. Just then, the ground suddenly began to tremble, as if some terrifyingly large beast was rushing towards this location. A moment later, a colossal, snow-white giant ox, trailing a plume of flying snow, charged towards the spot where Sun Wukong had just roasted the snake. When the giant ox arrived and saw the snakeskin and leftover meat scattered on the ground, it let out a heaven-shaking roar filled with immense grief. Clearly, this giant snow ox knew the great snake. Unfortunately, it had arrived a step too late. Actually, after killing the great snake, Sun Wukong had detected the distress signal it sent out before dying, but he hadn't paid it any mind. Upon finishing the snake meat, he felt the air vibrate and guessed the great snake's reinforcements might have arrived, which was why he didn't hesitate to expend spiritual energy to quickly flee. Hearing the furious roar behind him, Sun Wukong shook his head. Not strong enough, yet delusionally thinking of taking another's life. Since you wanted to eat Old Sun will eat you first. When Sun Wukong landed, he was precisely at the foot of an ice mountain. He reached into his chest, felt the snake pearl, and fell into thought. Should he find a quiet place to consume this snake pearl now, or continue north? If he consumed the snake pearl on the spot, his physical body would definitely become stronger, but it would delay him considerably. If he continued north, he could indeed save time. But in this exceptionally perilous extreme north ice plain, having more strength meant a greater chance of self-preservation. After only a moment's thought, Sun Wukong made his decision. Find a quiet place and consume the snake pearl. Even if he immediately headed north, he had no idea where the water tribe was located. He could only rely on intuition. This journey was entirely unpredictable. No one knew when he might find the water tribe. Therefore, delaying a bit now didn't matter, and besides, with greater strength, he could travel faster. Having decided, Sun Wukong no longer hesitated. He waved his hand, summoning the void salvation flower, then pulled the golden cudgel from his ear. With a light puff of breath, the void salvation flower flew to one end of the golden cudgel. Carrying the cudgel on his shoulder, Sun Wukong swaggered towards the ice mountain. Just as he was about to collide with the ice wall, the salvation flower flashed faintly, and the ice wall silently melted open, creating a human-sized cave. Although Sun Wukong had advanced to mid-level saint, his playful nature remained unchanged. He first used the renowned salvation flower for barbecue, then used it to clear a path. If anyone else saw this, they would likely cry out about the blasphemous waste. Unfortunately, no one else was around, and even if there were, Sun Wukong wouldn't care. Reaching the center of the mountain's interior, Sun Wukong stopped and retracted the salvation flower and golden cudgel. Turning to look back at the long human-shaped passage, he chuckled mischievously. Then, blowing a breath towards the surroundings, the ice within the mountain rapidly melted into clear water. With a point of his finger, the water rushed back down the passage he had entered, instantly sealing it completely before freezing solid again. From the outside, absolutely no trace could be detected. Sun Wukong nodded with satisfaction, then summoned the firmament heaven's silk, wrapping it around himself in a large circle. Only then did he sit cross-legged and close his eyes to meditate. Although this place was extremely secluded, caution was always best. If some demonic beast happened to burst in at the critical moment of consuming the snake pearl, it could lead to unexpected disaster. An hour later, Sun Wukong opened his eyes. Two beams of golden light shot out, punching two finger-sized holes in the ice wall. It seems these fiery golden eyes can be used as a surprise attack method later. If I zap an opponent's eyes like this during a fight, that would be quite amusing. Given Sun Wukong's personality, this wasn't an impossible notion. After an hour of recuperation, Sun Wukong's essence, energy, and spirit had all reached their peak state. It was time to consume the snake pearl and enhance his physical strength. At this moment, Sun Wukong took the snake pearl from his bosom, tilted his head back slightly, and swallowed it whole. Instantly, he felt as if a giant python had charged in through his mouth, then instantaneously transformed into countless small snakes, rampaging within his body. In just half a breath's time, more than half of his internal muscles had disintegrated. This shocked and angered Sun Wukong. It turned out that when Sun Wukong killed the great snake, a strand of its vengeful soul had escaped and entered the snake pearl. At the time, Sun Wukong, due to carelessness, hadn't noticed. But when he swallowed the snake pearl, this strand of vengeful soul, mixed with the pearl's spiritual energy, entered Sun Wukong's organs, flesh, meridians, and bones, attempting to destroy his life force from within. But Sun Wukong was a dignified mid-level saint. How could he let such a thing happen? He fully mobilized the spiritual energy within his body and began to encircle the rampaging snake, pearl spiritual energy. Finally, after more than an hour of encirclement, all the snake pearl spiritual energy was condensed within his dantian. But now, Sun Wukong faced a dilemma. Although all the energy was captured, how could he extract the vengeful soul within? If that strand of vengeful soul wasn't removed, this spiritual energy could never be absorbed. And if his own spiritual energy showed the slightest gap, the snake pearl's energy would definitely scatter immediately and continue to damage his body. Just then, Sun Wukong felt a warmth in his dantian region. Looking closely, it was the tiny void salvation flower. When the void salvation flower appeared, the gathered snake pearl spiritual energy suddenly began to stir restlessly, seemingly terrified of the smiling flower.
How could I forget about it? The salvation flower is the bane of all ghosts and vengeful spirits. Let's see you run this time.
Sure enough, as the void salvation flower flew beneath the ball of energy, the snake pearl energy twisted, and a small grayish-black snake separated from it, fiercely ramming against the spiritual energy Sun Wukong used to contain it. But it was merely futile. In the next instant, the void salvation flower released a minuscule thread of fiery light that wrapped around the grayish-black snake. Instantly, the small snake emitted a painful screeching sound, then was burned into nothingness by the void salvation flower. Seeing this, Sun Wukong was overjoyed but also felt a wave of fear. Luckily, he had this salvation flower. Otherwise, not only would he have wasted an emperor-level snake pearl, but he might have been severely injured himself. It seems I was still too careless. With the vengeful soul gone, all that remained was to absorb the snake pearl's spiritual energy and strengthen his physical body. This should have been an extremely difficult step, but when Sun Wukong attempted to absorb the energy, he found it surprisingly docile and extremely easy to absorb. Could it be because it was burned by the salvation flower, it became easier to absorb? Sun Wukong couldn't figure it out and decided not to dwell on it, resolving to experiment later when the opportunity arose. For now, it was best to quickly use the spiritual energy to strengthen his body. Time passed silently. 3 days later, the peak of the ice mountain suddenly shattered with a loud rumble, and a figure shot out from within. It was Sun Wukong, who had entered the mountain's core 3 days prior to consume the snake pearl.
It seems my body's strength has already reached the upper-level saint level.
3 days ago, his body was only at the mid-level saint strength. Although much stronger than ordinary saints, it wasn't overwhelmingly so. Yet now, it had jumped an entire level. This greatly startled Sun Wukong. Even if an emperor-level snake pearl was powerful, it shouldn't have such a terrifying effect. Could it really be the void salvation flower? He shook his head, dismissing the thought. Just then, Sun Wukong suddenly turned his head, pushing his fiery golden eyes to their limit, gazing into the distance. He saw a figure on the distant ice plain rushing towards him, pursued by a massive, snow-white giant ox. Sun Wukong couldn't help but smile bitterly. It's the companion of the great snake from before. What a coincidence. The giant ox probably couldn't find me and went on a rampage. But the fact that there was another person on this extreme north ice plain piqued Sun Wukong's curiosity. While he pondered, the figure had already reached him. Only now did Sun Wukong get a clear look at the newcomer. He saw a person with long, fiery red hair, a lean figure, clad in blue-scale armor. Before Sun Wukong could observe further, the person yelled at him.
"Friend, run quickly. That stupid ox has gone berserk. Don't let it catch up or it'll self-destruct."
Sun Wukong's playful spirit flared up, and he started running alongside the person.
Taoist friend, what did you just say? Why would that ox self-destruct? Judging by its strength, it should be mid-level emperor, right?
Friend, you may not know, but that's one of the few demonic beasts on this extreme north ice plain you shouldn't provoke. Its name is the snow-colored berserk ox. This type of beast is usually exceptionally docile, but if something angers it, it immediately goes berserk, attacking any creature within sight. If it encounters an opponent it can't defeat, it will self-destruct without hesitation. That's why no one dares to provoke it. I don't know how I got so unlucky today. I just stepped out and ran into an enraged snow ox.
Air. Ha ha. Then let's run faster.
Sun Wukong felt a pang of embarrassment, unsure what to say.
By the way, friend, what's your name? Very few people come to this extreme north ice plain.
This humble one is Sun Wukong, the great sage, equaling heaven.
What? What? You're called Sun Wukong? The demon race is Sun Wukong. The stone monkey Sun Wukong?
Old Sun travels without changing his name, and sits without changing his surname. Sun Wukong it is.
Instantly, the person abruptly stopped. Unfortunately, the ice plain was too slippery. Although he stopped, he still slid quite a distance. Seeing the person stop, Sun Wukong also planted his feet and halted. Before Sun Wukong could speak, the person casually waved his hand, and a blue water arrow shot out. The snow ox couldn't dodge in time and was struck by the arrow. In the next moment, Sun Wukong was too shocked to speak, because that massive snow ox had been completely frozen solid by the water arrow, devoid of any life aura.
Since you've arrived, I won't play anymore. Ha ha ha, I finally waited for you, Sun Wukong.
Who are you? How do you know Old Sun's name?
Sun Wukong asked warily.
Me? Ha ha. Remember this. I am the leader of the water tribe of the extreme north ice plain. Azure Blue Flame. Bashin En.
As his words fell, a water arrow much larger than the previous one abruptly materialized, speeding towards Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong was in danger.